Hello everyone! I've spoken about the idea for a lore museum, a way for people to catch up on the story so far, but going through this new player project, I also came up with some suggestions to improve the delivery of the story going forward, to improve the new player experience. At the start, I do want to make it clear that I'm not a game developer, nor do I have any clue if the things that I'm talking about today are even possible from a developer point of view. These are just my findings, and these are some ideas. Now, if I had to describe the new player experience going into Warcraft, one word that was just echoing in the back of my mind: overwhelming. The start is actually way better than I anticipated. The Exile's Reach offers a fantastic tutorial island, which gives players the opportunity to find their bearings in the world of Warcraft. You're then thrown in with the general population. Currently, that is reporting to War Chief Sylvanus Windrunner. Soon, that's going to be joining the people on the Dragon Isles, and it doesn't matter, because it both has the same problems. It expects you to know a lot. It expects you to care, and that's where the museum idea comes in, allowing people to catch up on the lore so far. On top of that, there would be that in-game wiki, giving the ability to click on highlighted words and read up on, if not ideally, narrated to you, read up on background information on what they're talking about. In this example, we're dealing with Talanji, Zandalar, Stockade, and Stormwind. Imagine a page that describes what Stormwind is and who Talanji is, to give you something of a handle, something of a starting point, to start caring about what is going on. Because that was my major problem while joining the World of Warcraft. I was so overwhelmed, and there is so much information thrown at you, my brain just shut off and was like, yep, cool, this is what's happening now. Take me with you, person that I've never met before. Oh, we're on a ship now, and there's this spirit ghost dinosaur. Cool. Oh, a pyramid. This looks awesome, man. I'm ready to party. I became so overwhelmed at the start of it that even though your questing experience and your storytelling is fine on its own, I'm already zoned out. I'm not gonna bother at that point to be like, okay, what is happening? Because it's just simply too much. The only times that I really snap back into the story is when visually it was stunning. Nazmir is such a good example of the art team, of the zone design telling you a story without using a single word. The scenery change accompanied with the music and the setting, it oozes atmosphere and it holds up to this day. Then of course there are the cutscenes that play out, that show a little movie, voice acting and music, and something's happening here. But then it was just back to the same way of delivering the story, same way of those quest box. The story of Warcraft is delivered through the quest text box since its iteration, since Classic, right? And over the years, it's been complemented and improved upon with voice acting, which kind of summarizes what we're about to do, and then the cutscenes that I mentioned, that makes the story come more to life. But at its core, we're still looking at the same quest boxes that we were looking at 19 years ago. So what is the purpose of a quest text box? It does not only convey its story, it also tells you what to do and where you're going to do it, which means that you become a selective reader. You look at this box and you go, scanning, 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 this is where you want me to go, this is what you want me to do, okay, and the rest is kind of dropped to the wayfair. Because let's be fair, a lot of people are just here for the gameplay, and not every quest box is equal. Some of them drop world-shattering main story lore, and others will tell you to go collect 20 bear asses because they're kind of hungry, and there is no clear distinction between either one of them. They're all visually treated as completely equal. Now, I can't speak for everybody, but I doubt that there are many lore masters out there that can honestly say that they've read every single quest box in this game. I know for myself that I most definitely haven't. That is why I would suggest reworking quest boxes, and a great example is the immersion add-on, which changes the delivery of the quest, and it makes it look more like an interactive dialogue, an interactive scenario. No longer should the quest just be a scroll, a wanted poster. Instead, it should be woven into a conversation, into an interactive moment, a story that you play through. On top of that, maybe it is time to redefine what a text quest box does. Do we still need it at this point in time to tell us what to do and where to do it? When in-game we've got quest markers and an objective list. Why not prioritize quest boxes to just tell the story of what is going on, why is it going on, what is the story here, and at the bottom you can write a synopsis like, okay, go over there and go do this. As well as maybe just summarize all the quests into one. So sometimes what they'll do is they'll have one major quest, as in go kill the bad guy, and then there are 2 quest givers next to it who are like, oh, while you're out, by the way, could you get me a newspaper and a croissant, maybe like a hot cup of coffee? But all of them, again, are treated exactly the same way as the main quest line. So now you're reading 3 quest windows, if you're reading them all. They have fluff, they have storyline, but they're not as important as the main story. Why can't we just roll all of that into one? I don't need to know the motivation of picking up some bare asses, but I do want to know the main story, and you're muddying up the pool, is what I would say. Make it more summarized in that regard. I wanted to show an example, so I've gone to one of the earlier moments that I could find. Commander Lefanok has 3 windows and a line of RP once everything is picked up. Imagine that he is standing with troops, he's doing something instead of waiting around for you to arrive, because that makes the world feel alive, and he offers a conversation, a dialogue box that moves with you as you go towards the quest objective. One that summarizes this information that now spreads across these different windows. Dragonheart Outpost has fallen to the simplistic yet overwhelming force of the Jardin. Our units are eager for the counterattack, but we must hold our ground until our young and helpless have been evacuated.
I am trusting you with the lives of my brethren.
And the objectives of the quest are still found on the right side of the screen. There are still quest markers on the map. And if I wanted to, a quest log with the original quest in there, so the original way of telling the story, if you're looking for it. Now, of course, not every quest is the same way, and they have made massive improvements over the years, but I think it could still use a bit of work here and there. One of the earlier 10.2 quests is another good example of what I mean. There are 2 quest windows with a lot of text, in essence telling me, go down into the Barrow Dens, take care of the Druids of the Flame, and put out the fires. Here, they kind of do what I'm looking for, which is Tirana starts to talk to you after accepting these quests. Imagine that we automatically pick up these quests, and then that RP, that flavor starts playing, and it moves with you into the dens. Play your game, and the RP is woven into explaining what you're doing and why you're doing it. The Druids of the Flame may be traitors to the dream, but they still possess the requisite knowledge to cross into it. No doubt that is why Virak has made allies of them. I will remain here and tend to any wounded that you send me. The safety of the Barrow denizens must come first. Then all you need to add is rescue who you can and find a dangerous fanatic that's spreading this fire, and you skip out on people having to read 2 big boxes of quest dialogue. And you might argue, no, well, what's the problem? Just reading 2 quest boxes is not that hard. But people are playing a game here. They don't want to read. And you gotta keep in mind, how many quest boxes do you come across in your entire adventure of World of Warcraft? How many are in there during your leveling process? In essence, I think the goal, the improvement here, is to make getting your quests and your objectives an interactive experience rather than a static reading a wanting poster. Another thing that could really help the delivery and make it more clear at face value what is going on, that would be changing the quest markers. Currently, we have our beloved known exclamation mark for a quest pickup, and there's a question mark for a quest turn in. As a new player, this is what eventually your screen looks like. The quest to check out the Warcraft Rumble promotion, it has the same marker as a weekly PvP quest, which has the same marker as a dungeon quest. It has the same marker as the main story of patch 10.2. It has the same marker as the main story of patch 10.1.5. I am an experienced player, and I can't tell you from the top of my head in which order these stories and quests played out. How do you expect a new player coming into your capital city with a boosted character or whatever to expect and be like, okay, this is what's going on, let's go do the quest line?
Champion, may I have a word with you?
But then Chandris started to yell at me to come over there and help her out, and that sparked somewhat of an idea. First step, let's step away from just exclamation marks. We're gonna make some new designs and make a clear difference between daily quest, weekly quest, main story quest, side story quest, promotional quest, PvP quest, dungeon quest. All these quests, they need different markers. Visually, I should be able to look at an NPC and get an understanding of what they want from me. Then guide players into what to do next. You might say, well, what about the suggested content in the adventure guide? They could use that, but it would definitely need some fixing because the recommendations are all over the place. Like they recommend Pilgrim's Bounty, they recommend LFR. Basically, they do, this is all of our endgame content. What would you like to do? And it's really, again, overwhelming. It does not explain to me, this is the main quest line, these are the side quests. It doesn't differentiate between that. What if they took this suggested content section, right? And they turn it into a book. Depending on where you are in the story, you can see the chapters, you can see like the main story objectives, but they're still faded out until you've actually done them. So without spoilers, this book would tell you like, oh, you are here right now. Okay, well, you could finish off the starting experience. You could also go into the 10.1 chapter or maybe in the 10.2 chapter. It would tell me where I am in the questing and guide me on how could I finish up this storyline. So far, we've got an integrated databank to fall back on and read up on what came before. And we can understand what we're doing. We've got a plateau to build the rest of the story from. The quests are now delivered in my opinion, a better way. And we have a clear understanding as to where the story can be found, how the chapters are flowing, and what path to follow. Personally, I'm quite a fan of the current leveling experience, and I quite like how the patches that follow tell more of the story. So as you play through the game, you get more of the storytelling, but that's not the only place where the story is told. Dungeons also play a big part in conveying the story, and that's where gameplay starts to conflict with the storytelling. That's where we can find the go, go, go mentality of getting things done quickly, which doesn't leave a lot of time to look around and smell the roses. Not to mention that it's really hard to focus on the story while you're also pushing out your rotation and dodging the swirlies on the ground. Who has time and opportunity to really look around and figure out this is the story that they're telling? My original suggestion was to add a duty support system, NPCs that could team up with you to go through the story at your own speed. And I'm happy to report that's exactly what we're getting in the next patch. They're going to focus on the Dragonfly dungeons first, but I imagine that this system, they're going to make it available across the board. After dungeons come the big conclusions in raids, and I've seen a bit of discussion on whether or not they should implement this AI system for raids as well. Personally, I think that we have Looking for Raid, which was invented for this exact purpose, to offer a tourist mode, a way for non-raiders to see the story play out. It's honestly been fascinating to see its development, from massively over-rewarding during the Cataclysm, to nerfing the difficulty into target dummies with around Mr. Pandaria, to these days arguably having LFR be harder than normal fights. I don't know who at Blizzard decided that Looking for Raid needed tactics, but you need to stop. It needs to be doable with over half of your raid AFK, because more often than not, half of your raid in LFR is going to be AFK. It's great that they'll buff you after you wipe, but fights should not go up to 10 stacks. Let people just enjoy the story and stop giving bosses the ability to murder people. If you haven't been in LFR for a while, check out how they've done Razagev or Sarkrev. Like there's boss fights in there that consider coordination are needed. It's not what, in my opinion, LFR is about. Where the NPCs might come in handy is to fill up the LFR when the search queue takes a really long time, especially useful for older, non-relevant LFRs. And then there's the elephant in the room, the delayed release of Looking for Raid. I could speculate on reasons why this is happening and dive into a deep subject of how to make money with subscriptions, people feeling discouraged of going into normal, the ways we connect our communities and form teams in-game, but all of that is not relevant for the way that we're telling a story. At the end of the day, how it's happening right now is that it's being spoiled on the PTR, which I know will never change, but I honestly think for the good of the story, it should stop being available on the PTR. Then it's being spoiled by a one-day early release on the US side of things, which again, I can kind of see why, but is not great for the story. And then you expect people to wait a month minimum to see the conclusion in-game because you decided to lock your story behind the end of the raid. This means that they're gonna get it from outside sources, which is not what you want. A fix could be to release LFR faster, the entire thing together with normal and heroic. Or you could offer the conclusion of the story 1 week later, regardless if they went into the raid and got the kill or not. So say that the conclusion of the story is to kill Virak. Let people just get credit for the quest automatically the following week. I think some of these changes could help with delivering the story going forward. I did come across some other things on this journey, but they're more gameplay related. Like there's a bit of a problem connecting people, especially since they're moving on to a more single player experience. With that in mind, I think it would be a waste to look at how communities and groups are being formed in-game right now. Where can first-timers learn how dungeons and endgame work? A buddy system or a mentor system would be fantastic. A group finder specifically set up for connecting those willing to teach with those willing to learn. But again, that's more gameplay related over storytelling. So wrapped up the video now, and let me just say thank you very much for watching, everyone. By all means, let me know what you think about some of my suggestions, and maybe leave some of your own in the comments down below. And until next time, see ya!